What I'm about to tell you still feels strange because for a long time I thought that night was about me. It wasn't, that's the part I missed. And honestly, if my retired neighbor hadn't made peach cobbler that Saturday, I might still believe the wrong thing. The night my older brother, Derek Hart, called me basically a lunch lady in front of 300 guests, I smiled because I honestly thought he'd stop there. I am Melissa Hart, a 31-year-old school cafeteria manager from Portland, Oregon, and I remember hearing people laugh before I understood why. Derek raised his glass, and my sister Melissa is here tonight. She feeds middle schoolers. Somebody has to keep civilization alive. The room laughed, he grinned. She's basically a lunch lady. More laughter, I forced a smile. My longtime friend Allison Green, who worked at Derek's company and had come as my guest, stopped chewing. The woman beside her lowered her eyes. Derek pointed toward me. Come on, sis, stand up. Everybody should meet the woman who keeps civilization running. Good evening, everyone. Someone clapped politely, then I sat back down. Allison leaned toward me. Melissa, that wasn't funny, I whispered. He's always like this. But when I looked across the ballroom, I noticed one older woman at table 7 wasn't smiling at all. After the speeches, Derek walked over with 2 drinks like nothing had happened. Hey, don't make that face, he said. People love you, you keep kids fed, it's wholesome. I stared at him. You introduced me like I was a punchline, he laughed. Melissa, relax, nobody remembers jokes after dessert. My closest friend, Jenna Price, who had come with me, put down her fork. Actually, I think people remember exactly who tells them. Derek smiled at her. Jenna, not everything needs to become a social issue. Then he looked back at me. I brought you here because family matters. Don't make me regret it, my chest tightened. You invited me because Mom said she'd be upset if I skipped again. He shrugged. Same result. After he walked away, Jenna whispered, You know what bothers me? I shook my head. She looked toward table 7. That woman over there hasn't stopped watching your brother since the speech. I followed her eyes, and for some reason, that scared me more than the laughter. By Monday morning, I had convinced myself the whole thing was over. I was checking milk deliveries when my phone rang. The caller introduced herself as my brother's HR manager, Paula Kim. Melissa, I hope this isn't awkward, but I wanted to ask something. I frowned. Okay, Paula hesitated. Susan McKenna requested a management review before she retired. Some concerns involved your brother's behavior and your name came up. Has Derek always joked like that? I laughed nervously. Pretty much. Paula went quiet. I thought so. Before I could ask anything else, she changed the subject. Anyway, thank you. My son says your school serves the best cinnamon rolls in Portland. We hung up, but an hour later Allison texted me, Melissa, don't panic, nothing bad is happening. My hands went cold. That evening my closest friend, Jenna Price, called. Something's off, I sighed. People are overreacting. Jenna was quiet. No, somebody at that table cared, and I don't think they cared about you. I think they cared about him. I suddenly remembered the woman at table 7, and I realized I had never seen Derek look nervous until she stopped laughing. Saturday mornings belonged to my retired neighbor, Mrs. Ramirez. Every week she made peach cobbler and complained about baseball scores she barely followed. Melissa, hand me the cinnamon, she said. I laughed. You say that like you're hosting Thanksgiving. She smiled. Honey, food fixes more than people think. We spent an hour arguing over whether vanilla ice cream belonged on cobbler, then she noticed I was distracted. Talk, I shrugged. My brother embarrassed me. Same old story, Mrs. Ramirez wiped her hands. And people from his company keep calling me. She nodded. Maybe they're checking on you. I shook my head. No, it feels bigger. She smiled. Bigger isn't always worse. Later that afternoon, Jenna stopped by with coffee. I found something strange, she said. I raised an eyebrow. Please tell me you didn't become a detective. She laughed. No. I asked Allison about the woman at table 7. Allison recognized her from company events. My stomach tightened. Who? Jenna looked serious. Melissa, she wasn't just another guest. Her name is Susan McKenna. And suddenly the peach cobbler didn't taste sweet anymore. Jenna sat at my kitchen table while I ate dill pickle chips straight from the bag. The woman at table 7 is Susan McKenna, she said. Executive Vice President, 20 years with the company. I blinked. So? Jenna stared at me. Melissa, Susan announced her retirement plans right after the gala and last week she officially stepped down. I almost laughed. Because of me? No, Jenna shook her head. Because of your brother, I didn't understand. Then Allison called. Melissa, I shouldn't gossip, but Susan told a few managers she couldn't respect someone who mocked honest work and expected everyone else to laugh. I sat there speechless. She quit because of one joke? Allison sighed. No, the joke was just the first crack people couldn't ignore. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing Derek's voice. Nobody remembers jokes after dessert. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe people remember exactly who you are when you think you're being funny. And honestly, if you've ever sat quietly while somebody turned you into a joke, then you probably know why I couldn't stop thinking about what Susan saw that night. 2 days later, my mother, Carol Hart, called and asked me to come over. Your brother's upset, Mom said. People are making this bigger than it was. I almost stayed home. But Dad Martin Hart had texted me something unusual, just 3 words, please come tonight. When I arrived, Derek was already annoyed. You enjoying this? He asked. I stared at him. Enjoying what? He laughed without smiling. Susan quits and suddenly everybody acts like I kicked a puppy. Mom jumped in. Derek, honey, maybe don't say it like that. He pointed at me. You know what the funny part is? Susan loved hearing stories about Melissa. I told her about the cafeteria, the free breakfasts, all of it. I thought she'd appreciate that I came from humble beginnings. I blinked. You told her you admired me, he shrugged. Of course I did. That's why this whole thing is ridiculous. Dad quietly put down his fork. Son, maybe that's exactly why she left. For the first time all evening, Derek looked confused instead of angry. The next Saturday, Mrs. Ramirez asked me to help her move flower pots. Halfway through, my phone buzzed. It was Allison. Melissa, do you remember the story Derek always tells about 6th grade? I laughed softly. The one where I worked extra mornings with Grandma because Dad lost his job, Allison sighed. Susan remembered that story too. My chest tightened. What does that mean? Allison paused. She told Paula that she respected Derek because he always talked about his sister with pride. She thought he understood dignity. I sat down on Mrs. Ramirez's porch steps. Then why did he do that? Allison answered quietly. Because he wasn't talking to you that night. I frowned. Then who? Allison exhaled. Himself. Mrs. Ramirez handed me lemonade without asking questions. Honey, sometimes people spend years building an image and ruin it in 10 seconds. I looked at my phone again. And suddenly I realized something awful. Derek hadn't forgotten who I was. He'd forgotten who he used to be. About 6 weeks later, the changes inside Derek's company became impossible to ignore. Susan's retirement had started conversations nobody expected. Allison called me one evening and said, people aren't angry because she left, they're asking why she left. I was watering herbs on my windowsill. And, Allison sighed. 3 department managers followed Susan after months of frustration. Her leaving just gave them permission to stop pretending everything was fine. I almost dropped the watering can. Because of one speech? No, she said. Because they stopped trusting what they saw. Later that week, Derek came to my apartment. He looked tired. Melissa, did you tell people I hate your job? I shook my head. No, he sat down heavily. Then why does everyone act like I'm fake? I didn't answer right away. Finally, I said, because maybe they're asking themselves the same question you should. He stared at the floor. For once, he didn't have a joke. And somehow seeing him quiet hurt more than seeing him angry. A month later, Dad invited everyone to Sunday dinner. Nobody wanted to come, but everyone came anyway. Mom fussed over the potatoes while Derek sat quietly. Halfway through the meal, he cleared his throat. Melissa, I owe you something. I looked up. An apology? He nodded. Yeah, but more than that. He rubbed his forehead. I spent years telling people I was proud of you because I was. Somewhere along the way, I started caring too much about looking impressive. Mom wiped her eyes. Dad simply nodded. Then Derek laughed sadly. And the stupid part, nobody cared that my sister worked in a cafeteria. They cared that I acted like I was above it. I smiled a little. That's because feeding kids isn't embarrassing. He nodded. I know that now. And for the first time since the gala, we talked like brother and sister instead of strangers sharing memories neither one understood anymore. Walked through the cafeteria doors and waved. Aunt Melissa, Dad says your pizza day is famous. I laughed. Behind her stood Derek. She's been talking about this all week, he said quietly. I handed Lily her tray and smiled. Life wasn't perfect. Some things take longer to repair, but people change when they decide honesty matters more than appearances. That's what I learned. If this story stayed with you, I'd love for you to like this video, subscribe so we can keep sharing stories together, and leave a comment telling me this. Has someone ever made you feel small for something you were proud of? I'd really like to know. Derek looked around the cafeteria and shook his head. I used to think I was too important for this room. I smiled. No, Derek. You just forgot who fed you.